With karate, I'll kick your ass from here to right over there. Oh yeah, motherfucker, gonna kick your fucking derriere, yeah. You broke the rules, now I'm pulling out your pubic hair. You motherfucker. You motherfucker. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. It is Mikey Likes You, the greatest health and fitness show on earth, decided by me. But again, I will repeat, no one said Michael Jackson was the king of pop. He did, and it just became true. Howard Stern said he was the king of all media, and he did everything he needed to do to make everyone believe that. And I'm just establishing now, based on nothing, that this is the greatest health, fitness, and wellness show on earth. And eventually you'll all buy into it. Very big show. It is a Q&A. Those typically tend to be the most popular. But on top of that, this is the very first video, Mikey Likes You, brought to you by the great people of Brinks. Everyone, go ahead, put down a baby if you're carrying a baby. Put your hands together. Producer Courtney and everyone working very hard behind the scenes. Their voices might be heard, but they like to stay anonymous to just do their job so well. But yeah, I'm excited because I can't tell you how many DMs and emails and tweets I get about, hey man, is your show on YouTube? Because I don't do podcasts. Well, now it is. Okay. So officially now you can go to Mike Catherwood on YouTube, Michael Catherwood, I think. I don't know. I'll put a link in. And you can watch this show, listen while you're supposed to be working in your cubicle. You have your headphones on and you're looking at my face. Now, for a Q&A, probably not that much benefit to having the visual component, but eventually I will introduce really, I think, crucial elements to a show like mine where it's about things like health and fitness and wellness, and I will have the ability to provide you video demonstrations of exercises. I can have cooking components, to touch on the nutrition stuff. There's many a time in the 60, 70 episodes that I've done where I say, okay, imagine you're watching me. Okay. I'm standing and I've got my hips hinged and this is where I'm going to keep my back straight. So now you actually have the ability to go to YouTube and check it out. So congratulations, me and everyone. Thank you to the people at Brinks. And of course, as always, thank you to the amazing people at Believe who make this show possible. So we'll get right into it. I'm at Mike Catherwood on all relatively important social media stuff. And I'm also at Mikey Likes You 1. Yeah, I just burped. Again, I'm new to this video thing. I used to be able to do that and no one would know, but yeah, I burped. Mikey Likes You, and the number 1 is my handle for the show. That is where I solicit for questions from all you guys and gals. And I have to say, even my wife commented, she was going over them, as we were preparing to do the show. And she's like, man, you get a lot of really good questions. And it's true. I've, especially with my history with Kevin and Bean, I used to do a lot of, call in fitness stuff. And it carried over into Loveline, but it was like a low percentage of important questions. The rest of it was like, how big's a good sized dick? And, so I'm just appreciative that a lot of the questions, not all, but a lot of the questions that I get when I solicit for questions to do a Q&A are really, really thoughtful questions that provide me the opportunity to give, I think, meaningful answers that actually matter to people who are listening. So I thank you guys and gals for doing that. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start on my Mike Catherwood profile. Oh, the greatest gay in the world, Mike Arani, my boy. He's actually my friend, Mike Arani, who is also, let's be honest, he's my stalker. When will you start in OnlyFans? I don't think I'm going to do that. And not that I'm against it, but I don't think I can provide much sexy. And let me explain. I think especially for guys, it might be different for women, because there are definitely women who are not classically beautiful that are super sexy because of the way they carry themselves, or the fact that they're so indifferent to their sexiness. It just kind of naturally happens. Guys have to have a thing, and it is completely divorced from how attractive you may be or how like muscular you may be. Guys have to have a sexy. I don't have that. I don't have that in not one bone in my body. Even when I don't have headshots, like real headshots, for one reason, because every time I go to have, my agents or my managers are like, hey, you got to go get fucking headshots. I can't make the serious, like brooding sexy guy thing. I just laugh and I go, hey, can we take a picture of me covering my dick with a daisy, or like covering my dick with a microphone, because hey, I'm a broad. And they're like, no, let's unbutton that suit, that top button on your suit, and let's like try to look sexy, like lean back and be brooding. And I go, I can't do that. I don't have fucking. So if I had OnlyFans where I was supposed to be like giving dudes boners, I would offer you nothing, because I would just be me, like being all the members of the Village People and trying to, you know what I'm saying? I don't have that in me to like elicit a sexual response. And my wife doesn't like that, because every once in a while it's like time to be intimate. And I can't break away from like funny time. And I bet you a lot of it's insecurity, because I should be able to just own my physical presence, but I can't. It's always like I go to that defense mechanism of comedy. And so a real answer to probably just a funny joke question from my stalker. Even with padding, from Thrill Hama. Hey, Thrill Hama. Even with padding, I can't find a position to rest the squat bar that doesn't fuck up my neck. Advice. Yeah, very good question. Squats, much more than a lower body exercise. They're not just a great way to train your legs. The squats are the king of all exercises for a myriad of reasons. We've gone over this a million times, but I do think it's worth repeating. Understand that when you put weight bearing on top of your body, somewhere, whether it be a front squat in the front of your body or a back squat, and then go through the motion of taking your entire torso down below, parallel, and then coming back up. This is a super complex open chain movement. What I mean by that is that you're putting your body through the movement instead of just having your body fixed and putting your limbs through the movement. The difference between, say, a push-up or a bench press machine. A bench press machine, you would be fixed. Your body and your limbs would be doing the work. A push-up, you're putting your body through the entire range of motion. This elicits a much better hormonal response. It's much better metabolically. All of these things happen because it's just far more difficult on you systemically. So the squat is at the top of that list because you're taking your entire body and lowering it and bringing it back up. Then with weight on top of it, it becomes so much more. Again, it definitely trains your lower body, but it also gives you such a hormonal boost and metabolic health benefits. The problem is that unless you've practiced doing it, it's really uncomfortable to put a fucking barbell, even if it's a light one, on the top of your back. So if you're having tremendous trouble putting a bar on the top of your back, which is where it's supposed to be, you should make a shelf out of your traps. Understand that, and here we go, the video component coming in crucial. You don't want the bar hitting your neck to the point that you're lowering your, and then putting it on your neck. You want to be able to retract your shoulders and make your traps here, your upper back, into a shelf for that bar. That is for the high bar squat, the Olympic squat, the typical squat. If that is completely impossible for you for numerous reasons, either you have really, really tight thoracic and you can't get your shoulders retracted enough, you're just like this. A lot of us are because, we live in a screen watching world, that may be close to impossible. As this man, as Thrill Hama has pointed out, even with the bitch pad, which we call it, because by the way, here's a big piece of advice. Don't use that fucking pad, because that is just going to completely change the angle to which you put that bar on your back and makes it almost impossible to find that right position. And in weightlifting circles, it is called the pussy pad. And that has nothing to do with gender, because even when my wife started training with me, in the last 5 or 6 weeks, I was like, no, get that fucking thing out of there, because even girls who go hard, they know you don't use that pad. It's just a kind of like an amateurish thing to do. You have to find that right spot. If that is utterly impossible, like I said, if your thoracic is too tight and you're too retracted, you can't get your shoulders in, your front delts are too tight, you can't get the bar back and in that position where it's resting on the traps, you have to learn to opt for the powerlifting squat or the low bar squat. Immense benefits to the low bar squat in comparison to the high bar squat. There's also downsides, but it is either way a better option than just not squatting at all. What that means is, instead of resting the bar up here on your traps, you would bring the bar down lower, almost to shoulder level on your back, and then the movement becomes different. Instead of trying to keep an upright torso and squat this way, you would have the bar lower on your back and get more of a bend, pushing your butt back and incorporating the glutes and the lower back much more. There's incredible videos all over YouTube. This isn't 1995 when I was trying to put together my ideas of how to lift weights. We have the internet, and I put up videos on my Patreon demonstrating proper form and tutorials for the deadlift, the Romanian deadlift, the squat, and the overhead press. I will definitely add in the low bar squat. But until then, there's a myriad of outlets that provide you just immeasurable amounts of quality when it comes to instructionals in the complex lifts. The low bar squat, again, if you just can't find the ability to high bar squat because of either your biomechanical makeup, it's not necessarily something you're doing wrong or a fault of your makeup. Sometimes people just aren't built for high bar squatting. There's ankle mobility problems too that create, real problems throughout your entire chain, because you just can't get low enough because your ankles are too tight. All of this connects. So my point being, learn how to low bar squat. You can go back into your heels a lot more. You push your butt back a lot more, and your torso can bend forward a lot more, thus incorporating your glutes and your low back a lot more. The reason powerlifters use a low bar squat is because you can use more weight. It's not just the majority of the weight isn't just bearing on your quads or your front legs like the upright kind of high bar squat. Applying that bar lower and getting more lower back into it and more glutes into it provides more musculature, a lot stronger musculature than your quads, to then get that weight up. So there's benefits to that. That is definitely my biggest piece of advice. I would say go check out Squat University. They have a great YouTube channel that really breaks down not only squatting, but also deadlifting and Olympic lifting. 70's big, 70's big. Strong lifts. There's this other caveman looking dude, big fucking beard, and he's great. You know what? I'll check this guy's out. Hey, work with me here. What's that guy? I follow him on YouTube, but I forgot his name, and I really apologized. Alan Thrall. He's a genius when it comes to tutorials and ideas of how to weightlift safely. ALAN Thrall. It's THRALL. Alan Thrall. So take my advice, then go to these people. I will then work on the tutorial for the low bar squat to go along with the other tutorials I've already made, which I've heard from my patrons are quite helpful. So I will work on the low bar squat, and then I will start adding these tutorials to my YouTube page. Fredville 2000. Hey, Fredville. I've been hearing about eating carbs after a workout. The theory is your muscles will use them and they won't turn into body fat. What do you think about it? I know you're eating less and less carbs. Okay, that is 100% true. After resistance training, your body's glycogen stores have been dramatically depleted. This puts you in a whole different chemical setup than it does throughout the day. Things like bananas or maltodextrin or glucose, just really fast absorbing, super insulin spiking carbs. Throughout the day, I wouldn't recommend eating those things. They're going to make you starving and they are not going to be very filling, and they do spike insulin and blood sugar and the whole thing. After doing an exhaustive resistance training workout, again, this is for resistance training. This isn't necessarily for, getting your sweat on going for a jog. You are greatly depleted of glycogen and your body will respond better to these carbohydrates. You can take in a much larger bolus of carbohydrates. In fact, it is recommended. These will refill these glycogen stores and inspire protein synthesis, which is a fancy way of saying building muscle and not adding to adipose tissue. Obviously, there's a point of diminishing returns that doesn't give you liberty to eat carbohydrates ad nauseum, ad libitum, as they say. But, if you're someone who goes through the day, you found that your carb set point is, 100 carbs throughout the entire day, which is relatively low unless you're on a medically ketogenic diet. You can have 75 of them post-workout and then spread the other 20 to 25 throughout the day, because you are in a much better chemical standpoint to take in those carbs and then use them for something that's actually beneficial, as opposed to something like adding to body fat. When it comes to adding to body fat, though, let us not forget the biggest thing there is calories. If you're not taking in too many calories, you're not going to be adding to body fat. I know people oftentimes, and it's an understandable idea, the idea that, hey man, I don't want to eat cupcakes and I don't want to eat bananas as opposed to apples, let's say. Cupcakes is probably a bad example because we shouldn't really be eating cupcakes, but I've opted to eat chicken breast and broccoli because I know if I eat fruit, it'll just add to body fat. No, not true. If you eat 1,800, if you're a 200-pound guy and you're eating 1,800 calories, it doesn't matter if it's fucking gummy bears or chicken breast, you're not going to gain body fat. Now, is it probably a good idea for your health? Is it a good idea long-term? Is it sustainable? No, it's not sustainable to eat 1,800 calories of gummy bears if you're a 200-pound man. But don't get it twisted. It's not going to affect your weight gain, whether it be body fat or muscle, either way. That being said, I think for the long term, for real long-term sustainability and success when it comes to looking better naked, you should regulate your carb intake to certain times of the day. Those days would be pre-workout, or those times of day would be pre-workout and post-workout. A lot of people alternatively have found a lot of success into pushing their carbohydrates to right before bed. The reason being, carbohydrates kick up your serotonin tremendously. The old idea of the Thanksgiving dinner making you super tired because of the tryptophan, bullshit. The reason that we all get super tired after Thanksgiving is because we stuff our fucking face. And we stuff our fucking face with this much turkey and this much stuffing and pie and potatoes and all these fun things to eat. Eating lower carbohydrate, high protein, high fat foods doesn't inspire this chemical response in the brain of relaxation, of sleepiness oftentimes. Carbohydrates do. So people like myself who are very responsive to carbohydrates, I'm a guy who likes to eat, animal flesh pretty much throughout the day. I will add in some fruit before bed, usually to then just give me that extra, that fructose does a great job giving me that feeling of relaxation. Hey, it's time to let loose and just relax a bit. So if you can, try to have your protein and healthy fats throughout the day, or push your carbohydrates to the end. A guy by the name of John Kiefer developed an entire system around this called carb backloading. many successful people, not only in the physique game, but also in fitness and performance, have found incredible benefits. Ben Greenfield uses it quite frequently, and he's about as smart as anybody else in the fitness and health world, where he will eat, meat and green veggies throughout the day. And then at night, he'll have his sweet potato and dark chocolate, a couple glasses of wine, whatever it may be. And that helps him kind of reset for the next day. Also, there's things called targeted carbohydrate use, which is, again, incredibly smart, especially if performance is important to you. If you're not just a regular Joe or regular gal who wants to look better, you want to perform well in something, avoid carbs as much as you can. And then prior to your workout, have 20 to 30 grams. And then post-workout, have 30 to 50 grams. That's a very, very, very wise way to use carbohydrates in a targeted fashion. Richie Benson Jr. with heavy compound lifts, 3 to 4 days a week. Will running 4 to 5 miles twice a week impede the progress of the weightlifting, or just more opportunity for injury? Both. Thank you. Yes, it will. Does that mean you shouldn't do it? No. What it means is and this goes for everybody, even if you're not an avid runner. You have to have a priorities list. And this is my only complaint when it comes to CrossFit. I like the idea of CrossFit because it makes people who wouldn't necessarily put a barbell on their back, put a barbell on their back. That's awesome. It makes people really push themselves and work super fucking hard. And that's awesome. There's a significant spiritual and emotional benefit to something like CrossFit. The community aspect too. That's why I don't like the idea of people thinking that I hate CrossFit. What I don't like about CrossFit is that it doesn't prioritize anything. It's right there in the mission statement. We're specialists in nothing. We want to be, jacks of many, an ace of none. That doesn't work well. The body isn't like that. Human body isn't like that. Let me give you an example, a clear-cut, very crystallized example. Lance Armstrong. Drugs aside, controversy aside, just take Lance Armstrong. Arguably, and it's hard to argue with, the greatest endurance athlete that's ever lived. His ability to sustain insane wattages on a bike for hours is second to none. The greatest endurance athlete we've ever seen. It was truly otherworldly and superhuman what he was able to do on a bike. The guy retires, starts getting into running marathons. He fucking stunk. He stinks. The body learns to adapt to specializations. It doesn't carry over in a way that you think like, well, if I'm lifting weights and I'm trying to get lean and jacked, I'll run and that way I'll be losing more body fat too and I'll have the best of both worlds. It's not how it works. Running 4 to 5 miles a couple times a week is going to absolutely detract from your protein synthesis, from your ability to develop contractions in your muscles, because you're taxing an energy system that doesn't have anything to do with your metabolic health or your strength. So understand that you can't serve two masters. As my friend Matt Vincent, very high level Highlands game athlete, always used to say, you can't sit on two horses with one ass. And it's the truth. And he was a world-class Highlands game athlete, which is kind of like strongman. For those of you who don't know, they take big, strong, big fucking things and they fling them around and they compete in that. He was a super high level. He was also 250 pounds. And he's like, dude, I got to look better. I got to take better care of my health. He lost 50, 60 pounds. He's ripped, looks great. His ability to perform in the Highlands game is nowhere near what it used to be. But he has abs. So you have to understand that you have to have your priorities in check. If you just get such an immense benefit emotionally and psychologically from running that 4 to 5 miles twice a week, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to do it. Just know that it is absolutely going to take away from your ability to lose body fat or gain muscle mass or both. It doesn't put you in a very good metabolic environment. It doesn't necessarily put you in a good environment for building muscle mass because you're detracting greatly from your ability to synthesize protein, which is what everything is. It's taking that, when it comes to muscle, it's taking in amino acids and the ability to synthesize those into other physical proteins. So there you go. Chris Bouvier says, We're one step closer to Mikey Cooks making the comment about this video show. He's right. It wouldn't, me cooking for you would probably suck on an audio podcast. Like, there's no fucking cooking show that's audio. And if it is, it's probably for like really high level chefs, people who went to Cordon Bleu and shit. I would love to do that. I'd love to. I think the biggest, what people don't understand is you can ask all these questions about squats and running and all that. So much of it to the point that your training is almost mathematically insignificant. That's how important your diet is. When you're talking about your health, when you're talking about your performance, when you're talking about your mood, when you're talking about looking good naked, it's so much of it is diet that it's almost like, I mean this, it's almost statistically insignificant what you're doing training. I just burped again. The documentary, everyone knows the documentary Super Size Me, right? Where Morgan Spurlock ate McDonald's every day for like 30 days and he gained a bunch of weight and his health went to shit. Well, a lot of people don't know about the alternative to that, where a professor in the Midwest ate McDonald's every day for the same amount of time as Morgan Spurlock. But on top of that, he regulated his calories to cap out at like 1,800, 1,850. The guy lost 30 something pounds and his blood markers in every direction went up and improved. His cholesterol improved, his heart rate improved, all the telomere length, everything you can imagine. And all of that is because how much you eat is really determining most everything in your health. Okay, so don't get it twisted into thinking that you have to have this incredibly complex, incredibly intricate training program or else you're sunk. The reality is like, look at yourself in the mirror and get very, very honest with yourself about your eating. And then as an adjunct, have a very smart and wise and practical training program that you could do long-term. That is the key to long-term success. Every single top-tier patron I work with, every single one, barring a couple who were just flat out, extremely overweight and not very active, but 90% of them, they report back to me. They're like, "Are you sure this is all I have to? This is all the training? I'm so used to training 5-6 days a week, for a couple hours a day. This doesn't seem like enough work." And I go, "Well, it is. It's easily enough work. You just got to be eating right." Esteban 710 took your advice and stopped running so frequently. Now I'm just walking mixed with low weights, higher reps, and stopped eating candy bars, so that helped. Well, yeah. My question now would be, what are your views on fruits like dragon fruit or just plain old Honeycrisp apples? I work late and have substituted candy bars with late night fruit. There's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, when it comes to nutrient value, any fruit is going to be 1,000,000 times better than a candy bar. I do think that the movement and the popularization of ketogenic diets has created this fruit phobia in people, which is crazy. Fruits are incredibly low calorie with unbelievable amounts of nutrients and micronutrients in them, the vitamins and the minerals in an apple, and the healthy fibers that lower your blood sugar. They're fantastic. In like 80 calories, it does a lot. And that goes down the line with most all fruits. The problem is that people look at sugar as the end all be all. Like, I have to just avoid sugar altogether. And although I don't want to sit here and tell you, hey, everyone load up on sugar, but if your calories are adjusted and if your protein is high, fruits are amazing and I eat them every day. I'm not the biggest fan of raw vegetables. Everyone thinks that they're doing this great thing by eating salads. I don't see them as being much of benefit to anybody because most raw vegetables, barring carrots, are not very appropriate for the human system, and they don't get digested very well, and they don't get utilized very well. They fill you up, so I can understand that that's a diet trick. You're getting very low calories that'll actually fill you up. But the reality is that fruit is very appropriate for the human system, and most people are scared shitless of it because it's based in sugar. But I definitely would recommend switching to apples in comparison to a candy bar. My only question is like, why the need to have that sugar? Why not replace it with something kind of higher in protein that's going to keep you full and then also add to your metabolic health? So I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth. I like the fruit, but instead of having, what about candy bars late at night, fruit in comparison to candy bars? How about having an apple and some eggs? How about having some grapes and some cottage cheese? Like, it doesn't, like, you're comparing two things that don't necessarily have to be either or. You can also move away from candy bars and start working towards some things that are definitely going to help you overall when it comes to looking good naked and feeling good. Also, you said that you're walking mixed with low weights, higher reps. Don't do that. Do higher weight, lower reps. There's this weird misconception that when it comes to getting leaner, as opposed to being a hulking bodybuilder, that you want to do high reps, low weight. No. The best thing you can do is to avoid excessive volume and have much higher intensity, usually meaning higher weight, in a lower rep range. Higher reps is actually much more beneficial for gaining muscle mass, for retaining or gaining smaller amounts of muscle mass while reducing body fat. A caloric deficit mixed with heavy weight training is the way to go. What do you use on your hair? From Jonathan E. Baines. I'm sensitive to this. Courtney can tell you, before we even started, I was like, make sure that the Mikey Likes You sign doesn't cover my hair because it's my ghost. But on top of, I'm sensitive to it because I know for guys my age, I'm 42. So for the last 7 years, all my friends and colleagues around me, they're like, dude, what do you do for your hair? What do you do? And I got to be honest, and I'm not trying to say this to be trite or dismissive. It's genetic. My dad, my mom's dad, my dad's dad, they're all old as fuck. And my grandfathers died in their 90s, both full head of hair. My father got cancer 2 years ago. He got lymphoma, had to do chemo. He's 75, lost all his hair from the chemo. Couple months later, full fucking head of hair. I mean, like, his head as big as mine. Okay. So I hit the genetic lottery with my hair. I don't really use anything on it. I shampoo it 2 or 3 times a week, and then I just let it go. Occasionally, I will use the product Oxano Grow from Acer Customs. I had the CEO of that company on my show, Jay Campbell. And he, because we're bros, he hooked me up with some Oxano Grow. It's just nutrients for your hair. It's not like a hair gel or anything. And I do think it's great. It's a great product. And so, a couple times a week, I'll throw that shit in. But I don't do anything. So this is, as Beyonce would say, I woke up like this. What does a proper training nutrition journal look like from At My Profile? That's a good name. His profile is called At My Profile. Good on you. What does a proper training nutrition journal look like? Okay. In 2021, a nutrition journal for me, and I think for everyone, should look like an app. In 1999, when I really started getting serious about like how I looked and how I felt, I started journaling what I ate, measuring everything. I had a little notebook that I would carry around with me, and it sucked. It sucked ass. I had this little book that had nutrient values in it. I have to look up like 4 ounces chicken breast, and then I do math, and then I'd put it in there. It sucked. Okay. There is so many apps now that will do it for you. Carbon is a great one that Lane Norton put together. I use MyFitnessPal. I recommend it. It's so easy. It's so simple. Download it. It has barcode scanners. So you get yourself some like, a package of Costco ground beef. You go, ding, ding, and it says 4 ounces of this is 240 calories and 21 grams of protein. And you just add in, and then you put like, well, I'm having 8 ounces. So you put times 2. It's all done and take care of it. And it adds it up throughout the day. MyFitnessPal is great. A proper training journal can also be an app. I like the pen and paper style still for my training. All you got to do, write down your performance, the amount of weight you lifted, the amount of reps you did. Then I like to put little notations on the side. This felt really hard, maybe go up 5 pounds. This felt really hard, maybe go down 5 pounds. This felt great. I could easily do 10 more pounds. That's it. And then you just have that ability to look back the next time you're going to do, workout A, you go back and you look at the last time you did workout A, and you're able to compare and keep, and nothing is sustainable unless it's calculable. Going in there with like, I'm just going to get a sweat on. I'm going to fucking go into the gym. I'll probably do some chest. I don't know. It will end up spinning your wheels. I don't care how hard you train. Progressive overload and the idea of continuous gradual improvement is the key to any successful training protocol. So that's, in a nutshell, what you need to be tracking when it comes to a workout journal. Referencing your last post from Alex Cortez, referencing your last post about getting more quality reps, would you say that tempo is ideal for strength training, strength building, or for muscle growth? I've recently got back into lifting after taking a couple years off, and I'm currently making my way through the 5x5 program. Good job. Very good choice. I'm still able to add more weight for every workout, but my tempo is a bit faster than the video you posted. I can definitely slow down, but that's obviously going to have ripple effects on how much I can lift. Very true. I'm open to slowing down and lowering the weight. I'm just looking for some general guidance on how to best thread that needle. Thanks. Very good question. I did put up a post on my Instagram on both Mikey Likes You and on Mike Catherwood, where it has me doing squats with relatively low weight and going extremely slow, pausing in the bottom and then elevating, squeezing everything and contracting it. That is not going to be of tremendous benefit to someone who is trying to gain strength. It could have some latent benefits. It's not the way you want to train all the time. My only point for putting that up, and I don't think everybody needs to train as slow as that video is displaying. My only point in putting that up is that I see so many people I work with, or just people in life, who they're like, well, I can squat 315 for 5 reps. And I'm like, really? That's fucking pretty impressive for a guy 170 pounds. And then I see a video of it and he goes down 2 inches and he's bouncing up and down. I go, well, you squatted 0 for 0 reps. Everyone knows the dude who's like, I can do 20 push-ups without stopping. And I go, really? Okay, good, cool. And then you see him do a push-up. I'm like, you did 0 push-ups. You went like this with your butt up in the air. And my reason for putting up that video was to show that people in general, guys especially, have such an ego attachment to the weight that they oftentimes are putting themselves in general danger and then also not getting anything out of their training. Because they deadlift like a fucking scared cat, with their lower like this all over, because their hamstrings aren't strong enough to keep their back upright, and they squat a quarter inch, and they bench press by bouncing everything off their body because they just want to be able to say like, dude, I bench press 250 pounds. That's not going to help anything. If strength is your goal, you want to be strong as shit, watch powerlifters train. They ain't bouncing shit off the ground. Okay, they are not doing touch and go deadlifts with their back arched. They're training in a very precise rep range and weight range where they're constantly working on every nuance of their form to get better in that form. In that world of perfect form and control of the weight, they're constantly increasing their strength. So if you're going so slow that it's compromising your ability to lift heavy, I don't think you need to go that slow. But if you're going so fast that you're not actually doing a deadlift or a fucking squat, then you need to slow it down and you need to drop the weights, because believe me, if you want to deadlift heavy weights, if you want to squat heavy weights, you will get so much more out of doing 6 to 8 perfect fucking reps with 50% of your perceived maximum than you would by getting 1 or 2 reps that exceeds your maximum with shitty form. That'll get you 2 things: a trip to the doctor and the ability not to make much gains. And everybody knows those dudes at the gym that look like shit, but they're like, and the chalk's flying everywhere and they're lifting. And you're like, well, okay, that's great. But you've been training at this gym with me for 2 years and you still look like a big fat guy, so that's amazing that you did this crazy set. So tempo is important because obviously the slower you go, the less weight you can lift, the less reps you can do. Don't sacrifice weight for tempo, but at the same time, don't sacrifice form and quality for the sake of going faster and lifting heavier. I'm going to switch over to Mikey Likes You account. Let's see here. I believe there were some good questions on here as well. How often should someone switch up their lifting routine? From AZ Ginger Man. Well, Arizona Ginger Man, it often depends. Any fitness expert whose answer to anything is, well, this is the right answer, is he or she is full of shit. When it comes to eating and training, us humans are so unique that it's irresponsible, in my opinion, to say you should switch it up every 3 weeks. It's the way it is. The reality is you measure. One of the main benefits of having a workout journal is you're able to track and monitor your progress. Once progress stalls, that is a very good sign that you should switch things up. I do think because of the composition of the human metabolism and muscle cells, there should be periodization where you're training with higher volume, not necessarily higher weight, a little bit higher rep ranges. And then also there's times when you should be going for pure strength and you should be training really low rep ranges and maybe less frequently throughout the week. Start with 3 days a week of a full body based complex lifting style, like a 5x5. That's why I always recommend it to people. It's an effective set point. It works for everyone. If you're an elite athlete or if you're a beginner, start there. As soon as you start to see that there is either a general stalling or even some negative kind of numbers in your performance, you know that you have to start mixing in maybe some alternative supplemental exercises and maybe a different rep range. Also, if you start to hate going to the gym, things need to be done. And I don't mean like dreading so everyone has those lazy days. I'm talking about if your modality of training absolutely makes it dreadful for you to work out, then you should explore the idea of switching things up, because mental fatigue is equally, if not more important than physical fatigue. I'm not one of those people who says like, well, training should be fun. No, fuck no. That's not true. It should be enriching. It should be inspiring, but it doesn't have to be fun. Sometimes my training is usually not very fun at all. Hey, Mike, thanks for all the help you give. Oh, you're welcome. From Darth Randall 5. I'm relatively new to resistance training, but have always been pretty active, mostly running and ice hockey. 38 now. I just started the 5x5 program 2 weeks ago and hired a trainer for a 1 day a week gym session to work on technique. Awesome. Good job, man. I'm wondering if you think it's okay to swap the barbell for dumbbells for the overhead press and bench press for the days I don't have a spotter. I don't really feel comfortable with those exercises yet. Thanks for everything you do. Absolutely. I don't think it's even a matter of spotting. Also, some people just feel a better contraction with dumbbells. And it makes sense, right? Especially with those two aforementioned exercises. yes, there's the danger of doing them without a spotter, especially a bench press. I mean, if you get a weight that you can't handle, or you go to a rep range where you hit failure and you don't have a spotter, that's fucking dangerous. You can just drop a dumbbell. But also, when you look at pressing movements, be it vertical press or horizontal, a bar is fixed, right? A bar is fixed in your hands. The motion is straight up and down. For your deltoids, for your chest, that doesn't necessarily maximize contraction. If you, for those of you who are listening and not watching, do it right now. Put your hands out in front of you like you're fucking Frankenstein, right? Okay, now flex your chest like this. It's a bit of a contraction, and you get it there. If you were to bring your hands together, like you were doing double fist bump in front of you or trying to show off your knuckle tattoos, now flex your chest and you can see that there's a much harder contraction, because that is what the chest musculature is supposed to do. It's not only supposed to move your arms forward and back, it brings it across. Okay, it brings it across you. So the dumbbell gives you an ability to have that range of motion, which better contracts the chest muscles. Same with a vertical pressing of the shoulder press. Always go ahead, substitute. I'm a guy who dumbbell presses for my vertical press for chest stuff. I'm a guy who barbell presses for my overhead press. I feel it better. I feel I can go heavier. I feel a little bit more. It's a little scarier. So I don't know. It kind of keeps me mentally going, but I don't get enough out of my regular barbell bench press. So I always opt for dumbbells. So go ahead. How do you deal with being on the road and having to eat meals in which you can't count the calories? I travel often, and that's the biggest reason I have setbacks throughout the year. Great question. How many of you out there are in an industry where you travel a lot? And sure, pretty easy to fucking keep your macros set up when you're in your kitchen, but that's not reality for most of us. Couple pieces of advice. Pre-cook. I know that sounds fucking crazy, even for someone, even if you're getting on a plane. I just traveled to Austin last week. I know it sounds dumb, and I don't want you to all be the professional bodybuilder who's got the Tupperware full of broccoli and chicken, because that sucks. But, I got on a plane. It was really easy to put a cup of Greek yogurt in a little container with a half cup of berries and some nuts and, protein powder in it. And I was like, 70 grams of protein. I was like, and I waited a couple hours after I ate my breakfast before I left for the airport, got on my plane, and I was, an hour into my flight to Austin, Texas, and I broke out my yogurt. My wife did the same thing with some nuts and some hard-boiled eggs. You don't have to get too elaborate. You also, I understand, be wary of, I'm going to go on a rant here. You person who comes to work and uses work microwave for fish or broccoli, fuck you. There's so many things you can eat and reheat. If you make the conscious decision to go to a workplace and put broccoli or fish in a fucking microwave, you're a dick. Fuck you. You should be able to fire someone for doing that. It's really think about that. No one's unaware that shit stinks. Right? I remember I was doing Access Hollywood like a year ago, and there's this story that Khloe Kardashian was shocked to find out she had a big butt. And I said, no, there's never been a Kardashian that was like, oh my God, my ass is huge. Bullshit. Your ass has been huge since you guys were zygotes. Okay? There's no possibility. And the same thing, there's no one who's like, oh, I didn't know that putting this fucking Parmesan encrusted sea bass in the fucking microwave was going to make my entire place stink. Don't do that. Now, back on where we're going. There are things that are very, very innocuous when it comes to traveling with that a lot of people overlook. Dairy, I did the Greek yogurt because I knew it was going to only be a couple hours, right? And it was freezing when I put it in there. Maybe not a great idea if you're like a long haul truck driver. But things like if you put oatmeal, you pre-cook oatmeal and mix it with protein powder, you know exactly how many calories, carbs, protein is in that. Okay. So if you did a big tub right before you left and you had it throughout the day, it doesn't matter if you had it in 3 servings or 1 serving, you know exactly how many calories and the macros of that. And that's something that I don't necessarily find difficult to eat cold. As long as you get a good tasting protein powder, it tastes pretty good. Protein powders in themselves are a great option. Find something that's really, really a good quality protein and have it in your shaker. You take that with you with a couple pieces of fruit, good pieces of fruit. Boom, Bob's your uncle. So just think about things that you can calculate and that are good without necessarily reheating, and do your due diligence before you get on the road. Also, friends of mine who are either cops, firemen, truck drivers have found tremendous success with these meal prep services. They'll take, a couple of the meals that these services prep for them, take them on the road, and just, and a lot of them, you can actually specify that you're not in a position to reheat them. And, so it's things like chicken breast on, leafy greens. They do really well with them. And so I would look into that too. And they've gotten to the point, it's not 5 years ago, a lot of these meal services, which are health-based meal services, are reasonable. They're relatively reasonable, especially if you do the comparison to what you would spend putting those things together. And you don't have to do all your meals that way. They offer like 1 or 2 meals a day for 5 days a week, or, you can do the whole setup. And I think that's also another great option. Why do you recommend eating 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight? A lot of others recommend 0.8 to 1 gram. I bumped my intake up to 1.3 a couple months ago, and it's working well. I'm going to keep it there. Just curious. Here's my thinking on that. There was science probably 20 years ago that started to develop that eating too much protein had deleterious effects to kidneys and things like that. It's been completely debunked. If you are a 200-pound man, if you are a 150-pound woman, if you go to eating, let's take the 200-pound guy for easy math, because, public school kid. 1.5 for a 200-pound guy is 300 grams of protein. If you make a commitment to get 300 grams of protein in, it leaves you very little stomach space to eat bullshit that isn't going to help you. You have to now make a conscious effort to go out and hunt protein. You will not settle for that pastry before you go to work. You will not settle for that bagel at the office, because you'd be like, that has 4 grams of protein. I'm fucked if I do that. I have to make this commitment to get this. So you're going to be stuffed, and you're going to be stuffed with 300 grams of protein. That's 1,200 calories. Way less than most people need to gain weight. You will be full. You will be creating a better metabolic environment because there's a higher thermic effect of food when it comes to protein in comparison to carbohydrates and fat. What does that mean? It means that by eating protein, you burn more calories than you do by eating carbs and fat. Protein has an incredibly high thermic effect of food. It actually takes effort to digest it. This is very good for you metabolically. Also, higher protein creates higher protein synthesis. Higher protein synthesis creates an environment that retains or gains muscle mass, which even if you don't want to be a big hulking person, you just want to lean out, this is what we're looking for. You're trying to change your body composition. You want to lower that composition of the amount of fat, body fat in the body, and you want to keep or raise the amount of muscle. You can't get shredded without a foundation to put it on. No one ever has been a fat, doughy dude with man tits and ran and ate rice cakes and then got shredded. They got smaller. They got littler. But oftentimes you end up with this kind of old school Weight Watchers idea of just count calories and do exercise. You end up with a smaller, pudgier you. Bumping up that protein to the max and getting your resistance training in is the greatest way to remove the body fat while either maintaining or gaining that muscle mass. So there's the 3 reasons, and I will go over them again. It's better for your metabolism. It burns more calories to eat more protein. It creates better protein synthesis, and it has an incredibly high level of satiety, meaning it makes you full. An old bodybuilding coach I used to work with used to talk about the fact that he said, I'm not necessarily a big fan of ketogenic diets because of maybe the lack of glycogen in your body. When it comes to performing heavy amounts of exercise, ketogenic diets can leave you lacking. He said, but what I will say is it's really hard to overeat steak and butter. Eventually you just go, fucking, I'm stuffed and I don't want to eat that other piece of ribeye. I've had enough. It's really easy to overeat mashed potatoes. It's unbelievably easy to overeat bread. You go to a nice restaurant, and they bring you that bread basket. I don't have to challenge any of you to eat that entire fucking basket. It's easy. It's palatable. It's easy, and it just goes in, and it's not very filling. Trust me, chicken breast and steamed broccoli and lean red meats and eggs, you can only get so much before you go, I tap out. So those are the reasons why I recommend and what would be looked at as an incredibly high level of protein. David Avi. Any tips for recovering from a rib injury? Currently dealing with 8 broken ribs and a punctured lung. I got to be honest, David D. I don't think I'm qualified to give you advice on how to deal with recovery from that type of injury. That's way serious. I broke 1 rib once, and I just trained through it. It sucked. 8 ribs and a punctured lung. Honestly, dude, I'm not a doctor, and I don't feel comfortable. I don't have a thorough understanding of the respiratory system, and I don't want to recommend you do something that could possibly fuck you up, maybe even kill it. I don't know. Talk to ear, nose, and throat doctor, maybe an orthopedic surgeon about like your ribs. I don't know, but God bless you. I'm glad you're okay, because shit. I hope that was a car accident. I hope you didn't get jumped or you hit with a baseball. What the fuck? 8 broken ribs. Holy micro. Recovering from a torn pectoral surgery about 4 weeks ago. This is from XVinX. Got all my mobility back now, staying active with lots of cardio, but losing my definition and strength. It sucks. Workout recommendations. And how should I approach overcoming the fear to lift again? You should have no fear to lift again, except for vertical pushing. That's how you get over it. Torn pectoral sucks. Had it. Sucks. Torn pectoral is not preventing you at all from training your hamstrings, glutes, quads, calves, lower back, traps, triceps, biceps, shoulders. Okay? I would stay away from your abs, from direct ab training, and I would stay away from chest training. I totally get that. But many people have made tremendous gains by squatting 3 days a week. Do the 20 rep squat routine. Maybe now's the perfect time. Avoid your upper body pressing and just get in there, go fucking ham on some squats and do some lower back and glute work to help strengthen your core areas and your posterior chain. But don't fear lifting in general. Fear contraction of the pectoral. And stretching of the pectoral also. What are your thoughts on rucking from Glass by Will? Rucking, for those who don't know, it's just essentially hiking with weight. It's great for special forces, military, firemen. They need to ruck because it's part of their deal. A lot of really high-level hunters will ruck in training to prepare to hunt. I did to go on my first couple boar hunts because they're hard to track. They're smart and fast animals. Rucking's great. It crosses it checks all the boxes that walking does. And everyone who knows me knows I recommend walking a ton, but it adds that added element of resistance. I love it. I love rucking. I would recommend rucking above walking. It's just most people don't have either the ability or the lifestyle to like go rucking. I will occasionally do it, just for shits and giggles. I will put on my 40-pound weight vest and do my walks like that. You know, I'll do like an elevated incline treadmill walk, or I'll just go out walk in the neighborhood. Rucking's fantastic. I do not recommend, unless you are training to accomplish something, like I said, special forces or firemen or something. I don't recommend going very fast, because the added weight provides added stress for your knees and ankles, and then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of not just running. So you want to mitigate the damage that it may do to your joints and the fact that it's low impact. Don't create it into something that's high impact. All right. I think that's it. And I hope that, that's it. Thank you to everyone who gave the questions. Courtney, what do you think? How do you think that first video cast went?
I think it went amazing.
Well,
lots of good questions, lots of good answers.
It's crazy, right? Like, people actually give me good questions. You would not expect, because it's me, you would expect there'd be a lot more like poopy pee-pee questions, but people really have a lot of great questions, and it makes me feel good, because it feels like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm just a narcissist, but it feels like, wow, people really trust me to ask me those they've really thought about what they want to hear me respond with, you know. So it feels, I love that you guys were able to get all the questions in the bottom there in the Chiron. And I think that the video component of this show is only going to grow as I'm starting to understand your guys' capabilities and you start to understand mine, and we can really build this into something special. I'm so thankful that you guys were able to help me in this regard. And it really means a lot to me. So thank you.
We're honored. We're happy to have you part of the Brinks family.
Thank you. And as they put on the bottom of the screen there, like and subscribe. It is Mikey Likes You. And give me those little likes and do the little bell thingy on YouTube. This is all new to me. But also my Patreon is available for all of you who want to access to the bonus pod, which just goes into a little bit more geeky details. Harry, I'm almost done. Do not bark. Goes into a little bit more detail about anything that I like to talk about when it comes to exercise, nutrition, habit forming, all those fun things. So thank you, and go check out my Patreon. Welcome to YouTube, and like and subscribe in this crazy mix-up world that makes you think that nobody cares. I do. Be good, people.